Welcome to Introduction to Biology for here in week 1. This term you're going to be looking at different parts of life and how life interacts and what different areas are adaptations and how they take place through the energy and how we are all interconnected. Biology is a scientific study of life, and biologists ask questions such as how does a single cell develop and so on. Here are examples of different areas of what makes up our life and what we'll be looking at here in for biology. The themes of this book make the connections across different areas of biology, which you will see as this term moves forward. Life can be studied at different levels, from molecules all the way up to the entire living world. And this is the biosphere that we live in versus the tiny living molecules. And this is what biology does. It's going to give you the breakdown of each. The emergent properties result from arrangement and interaction of parts within a system, and you're going to see how each area connects in one way or another to make the world function. One of the themes you'll be reading about in week 1 is reductionism, and it's a complex area of systems and components to make it more manageable to study. You're going to be looking at different areas of layers of each area of biology this term, and you're going to see how it all interacts with each other. An understanding of biology balances this reductionism with the study of emergent properties. Further this term, we're going to be looking at the study of DNA. The systems of biology is a combination of components that function together as one. Organisms interact with other organisms with a physical element, and how each of us and everything is related in some way, either through the food we ingest or for the energy we release. Here is an example of just this happening, of how light is absorbed and it's produced through a chemical reaction, and it's put out and absorbed through everyone that is living. Humans have modified our environment and changed things, and that's why we've had the issue of global warming, and that's why the climate change is a forefront discussion in the news. Now, there's different characteristics of a living organism, and it's used with energy to carry out different activities, and how each is important in our lives and how it affects each of us, from the soil to the air to the trees to all of the animals and humans. So you see how we absorb light and energy and how we expend it, and it becomes in one big cycle, and that is the study of biology. Now you're going to look at all the different levels of the biological organization, from structure and function, and how we are all related, and how we all interact. The cell is an organism, basic unit for structure and function, and the cell is the lowest form, but every living item has cells, and that's what forms up our DNA for our genetic pattern. Now here we're talking about the basic cells, and you're going to get to look at the example here. This is a very basic picture, and it's in size and complexity, and this is what makes up the beginnings of our world and plants. Now, chromosomes contain the most of the cell's genetic material to form DNA, and this is the substance of genes that holds it together that we are made of. Here is a lung cell, and divided into 2 smaller cells, which then will grow again. This is what makes everyone who's been able to breathe and has lungs. This is what makes us up. Each chromosome has one long DNA molecule with hundreds of thousands of genes, and that's your genetic code, and this is inherited by your offspring and your parents. This is how you get the genetic code from birth, and this is what makes you, you. And here is an example of what the DNA strand looks like, and the different markings and colors and genes that you see listed. Genes control protein production indirectly, and DNA is transcribed into the RNA, then translated into our protein, which makes us, where the genetic expression is process of converting information from gene to cell cellular product. Now the genome And it's the entire set of the genetic instructions, and the human genome is one of the largest. It has the most organism sequence through the DNA, and genometrics is a study of the set of genes within these species. Now, themes are different feedbacks and mechanisms and regulate biological systems and how they process and how they self-regulate through negative and positive feedback. Now, the enzymes is what we produce to make us all living and breathing individuals or animals or even plants. It's what we produce. The evolution of the overarching theme of biology is evolution makes sense of everything we know about biology. Organisms are modified descendants of common ancestors. Evolution explains the patterns of unity and diversity and similar traits amongst all the organisms and how it goes through, and differences between organisms are explained. And this is what you're going to be looking at this term. The core theme of evolution is accounts for the unity and diversity of life. In other words, nothing in biology makes sense except in light of evolution. And this quote is very important to understand that we all have evolved one way or another from the basics of the one genome cell, which makes up our DNA. Classifying the diversity of life is very difficult, but we have been working on it over the years, and that's the study of biology. Now, how you group each area of species and how you look at them are broadcast and use of cooperation and how they come from one another. And here's an example of how like the brown bear feeds into everything and what you can find the DNA in and where it has come from and going to. It's amazing how all these species are interrelated and interacting together to make up our world. Organisms are divided into 3 domains. So it's bacteria and archaea, which I'm always butchering, sorry about that. And they compose the periocotus. Now these are single-celled and they are microscopic. And here's an example of what they look like, blown up at the top. And then here's the 3 different domains of life. Now, each area has these multi-cell kingdoms. There's plants, fungi, and animals, and we'll be looking at that here in week 1 as well. Now, other organisms are formally grouped and have to be looked at as the term moves forward. And here is some pictures of how they all interact as one and breaks down into becoming the genes. If you have any questions this term, please do not hesitate to contact me, and I look forward to speaking with you.